I think such a way of manufacturing is almost lost now, and Japan is perhaps one of the last places in the world where the product is put ahead of balance sheets. Hajime Asaoke.
Hey everyone, welcome to Clicky Bezel. My name is Chris, and today we're going to be talking all about this beautiful Seiji Kurono Tokyo. Also, if you found this video entertaining or helpful at all, please do subscribe below. So like a lot of us, I found out about this brand through Instagram. I'm always really struck by really clean and simple dial layouts, and the salmon dial Toki from Kurono Tokyo, that shade of salmon really intrigued me, and it really helped out with that really simplistic Art Deco design on that dial. Just out of curiosity, I just wanted to see how much it costs to own one of these pieces, and if I'm at all able to purchase one. Like a lot of watches that are highly desirable, it was of course a limited release the way that Kurono Tokyo releases these watches. So it's a shame, but it's all right. What they suggested was to sign up on their email list through their website and just wait for next announcement of a new watch. So I did that. It really helps that there is kanji on top of the dial, which I always think it looks cool. And I didn't know what it said before, but it makes complete sense. I asked one of my family members that knows Japanese, and she read it as Kurono. Kurono. Totally makes sense. Now, for those of you that are not really familiar with the Kurono Tokyo brand, it's actually an affordable line of watches released by a very exceptional watchmaker, Hajime Asaoke. According to what he said he wanted to create this line of watches that he can wear himself, which is kind of amazing for an independent watchmaker, but he produces such a limited amount of watches for his clients that he's unable to have a watch for himself to wear. So I guess that makes sense. I mean, if I was a watchmaker, I would probably want to make a watch for myself and keep it before I give it out to my clients, but that's me. Yeah, and he also wanted to create this affordable line to appeal towards many watch enthusiasts, not just an elite group of watch enthusiasts that can really afford his watches that go well into the six-figure range, competing with a bunch of other higher horology brands out there. To be honest, I never heard of Hajime Asaoke before finding out about the Kurono Tokyo line that he released. And I always have a really good appreciation for Japanese watchmakers such as Grand Seiko that really hone into their design philosophies. And I don't know, that's just something really intriguing to me in collecting any kind of watches. Now, Kurono Tokyo always has some type of interesting way of releasing their watches to really detract flippers, but you know, as we all know, the flippers are always going to come in and sweep up these watches one way or another. And originally the way they wanted to do it with this watch was to only have females purchase this watch. As many of you might know, this struck up a lot of controversy, and not so long afterwards the brand decided to make it available to everyone to purchase, with a certain percentage allocated to existing customers and the rest for the public. So when this watch was released, you first had to fill out an application in September of 2021. And for California, the application opened up at 6 in the morning. So I had my alarm go off at 5:30, just camped at my computer just to make sure that, I don't know, the servers might go down on the website. So I just wanted to make sure I was locked and loaded and ready to go. Crossing my fingers that nothing bad would happen to the website. Got in, filled out the application as quickly as I could. However, I did have a strategy of getting this watch. On the application, it did still ask for nominees. At the time, you had to nominate someone for this watch. So even though they announced that it was going to be sold to the general public, not just women, they still had that application form on there for nominees. So of course, I nominated my wife. And what shocked me is that they asked for social media profiles. I thought to myself, like, is this some type of beauty contest, or is this their way of proving that you are a woman buying this watch? Luckily, my wife does have somewhat of a following on her social channels. I figured, why not? Let's just pop her social channels inside of there and cross my fingers and see if everything works out. Once the application went through, it gave me a thank you saying that they will review the application and they'll send me an invoice once everything is processed. The price for this watch, I believe, was $1,800, and that was basically it. I paid up, and it took about maybe 5 months for me to receive this watch from the day that I paid for them. So due to its limited nature and its small batch order, I figured, it's okay. I'll give it 5 months. Maybe I'll forget about it for a little bit. And it was going to be one of those things where you order it and you kind of forget about it a little bit, and then once you do receive it, you're like, oh yeah, there it is. That's yeah, I remember I ordered that. Okay, the unboxing experience. Let me just say that was very theatrical. There was a bunch of little accessories and little gifts, and I don't have the box with me right now because it's stowed somewhere. I'm here to wear the watch, not really look at the box, so let's move on. Now, the first thing I noticed about the watch was that beautiful dial. The dial is unlike any other blue I've seen. I've seen Tiffany blue OP dials before, but I would have to say I'm loving this dial way more. It's more of a softer hue of tealish blue. People said that they didn't really like the strap, and I can see why. I think most people want a stiffer strap and then for it to break down over time. But with this one, it already comes very soft, very supple, and almost feels like it's broken in for you straight out of the box. So far, I haven't taken it off the strap because I think it pairs really well with this dial color. I noticed it seemed a lot more daintier than what a 37mm watch should wear as. And I think it mostly has to do with the lugs. The lugs are very thin and kind of taper off at the end, which really gives that vintage look to it. And I do appreciate that. In person, it looks a lot more daintier than I expected. In comparison to my 36mm Oyster Perpetual, and this is on the last generation cases with the thicker lugs, especially at 36, it feels a lot larger on the wrist than this Kurono Tokyo Seiji. So by far, my most favorite thing about this watch, that is the handset. This goes all across their classic series of cases. Very unique, and it's unique to the Kurono Tokyo brand, I believe. The minute hand almost looks like the end of a fountain pen tip. It's very legible. Again, it plays really well in part of that Art Deco design that Asaoke was really going for with this. I just find that handset really well balanced on the dial, especially against that train track style minute track. And speaking about the dial, my second favorite thing is perhaps, of course, the dial. You know, not just talking about that amazing Tiffany blue hue, but rather the way that everything is balanced on the dial, from the 12, 3, 6, and 9 hour markers, that tri-circular track that's running around the dial. I mean, I think it's a great look. And especially if you're into this Art Deco design, which I'm a huge fan of the pole router, but I can't seem to get my hands on a pole router that I'm really in love with. This will really do the trick, and I think this is a very well done Art Deco styled watch, and I truly love that aesthetic about this. My third favorite thing about this design-wise, and this is not for everyone, but if you're a fan of crystal distortion, this has all of it. So their classic series on the Kurono Tokyo uses this box sapphire glass, which apparently is really hard to manufacture and is seen on a lot of acrylic watches at the time. To be produced in sapphire is apparently very difficult to do, and therefore adds to the cost of this watch. But the side profiling on this watch, as you turn it, you see all this quirky distortion that happens when you look at the edge of the case, and I find that really fun, especially if you're looking at your wrist at every single angle. It's something that you forget that your watch has, and it's just a little bit more interesting to look at on the wrist. And lastly, possibly my most favorite thing about this watch is, of course, the design philosophy that went behind this. Hajime Asaoke stated that the 60s is really the golden age of watchmaking, and to him, it is his favorite era of watches that came out during the time. And to me, I love what people are passionate about, and I can clearly see his passion through this watch. I think it's just a really beautiful expression of his passion for that era, and the fact that he was able to produce these for somewhat of a low cost, not like his six-figure watches, is pretty incredible, and it's definitely going to be a keeper in our collection. For $1,800, you can buy a lot of good watches for that price range. A lot of people will disagree with this price point, especially for the Miyota movement that's inside here. Yes, it's using one of their premium calibers. There's a lot of watches using that same caliber that are producing watches for half the price of one of these guys. And really, I think what you're paying for is the work of Hajime Asaoke himself incorporated into this watch design. And like I said before, I really appreciate when people put their utmost passion into their work. And it is clearly seen in this, and I frankly see that it's worth the cost. So I want to know your opinion on the classic series such as this one from Kurono Tokyo. Are you a fan of these watches, or do you even think it's worth the cost of owning these affordable line of watches from him? Let me know in the comments below. Well, that about concludes my thoughts on this Kurono Tokyo Seiji. If you guys are joining me for the first time, please do subscribe. I have a lot more videos lined up in the future, but if you guys have any other suggestions for any other videos I should do, please let me know in the comments below as well. So this is Chris from Clicky Bezel, and I'll see you next time.